All right, today we're going to dive into a project out there many of you have asked about, and that is Hedera. Welcome back into the show. My name is Paul Barron. Let's get into it today. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that, of course, is Gemini. Gemini now has an available credit card that you guys can jump to. If you visit gemini.com/credit-card, you can, of course, click the link down below as well. But there's a lot happening here. Of course, Gemini is now giving you Bitcoin rewards, so there's a lot there available. You don't even take a credit hit if you want to check and see if you're eligible for this, so check it out using the link. And another cool thing that they do offer is a pretty good stack of rewards. So these are the rewards that they're paying on the credit card, 4% mostly on gas, EV charging, all your transit and ride share, as well as 3% on dining. Also, last up here is you can actually select the crypto that you actually want to use. So it's very flexible, very easy to get started on it. Just use our link down below to get started. All right, let's go into it. Hedera has been a project that we've had on the show many times, and I want to kind of just get into more detail. I have questions. There's always concerns about every project I look at, and the best way to answer those is to get people on the show. If you take a look currently on TVL within Hedera, you can kind of see a little bit of sideways growth here. So that's a real question in terms of, is the chain continuing to grow? There are scenarios that we'll cover today, and then we'll get a chance to talk with their chief business officer a little bit into this. I want to play a clip for you guys, so it kind of sets things up before we bring him in. Take a look. And I look at this and I go, gosh, why are we not seeing higher staking rates?
I'm actually not sure why. I'm sure there is objections out there for some reason, but I just don't know them. Whatever objections there are in the governing council or elsewhere, I would like those to be brought forward and discussed publicly, but you should have them on and maybe you can get some more information.
We will ask that question to him. All right, so there you go. We're going to ask that question, and why aren't we getting better staking rewards? So I do want to bring on the Chief Business Officer over at Hedera, Gregg Bell. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. So Gregg, let's get into a couple of points. I want to jump over to that very issue, and staking is one of the key things that seems to be in the market right now. With HBAR, you are able to stake it over on Statter. There are some things within it that you can do, but there are also some limitations. First of all, do you think that we're going to see more platforms offering staking services in the DeFi ecosystem for Hedera?
Certainly over time, I think there's going to be more and more projects and companies that will be building on Hedera, and certainly the staking will be part of those components and offerings. So I would expect that to grow as just overall support of Hedera continues to grow. And we've seen that just recently. The listings by Robinhood and Kraken of HBAR are really exciting for the ecosystem. And so I expect to see more and more development and support broadly.
I was looking at if you were to go in and get some liquid staking going, of course, right there you can get HBARX, but USDC definitely not on the front line, which I think has been one of the big targets for a lot of people. Anything special that you guys are doing to help kind of foster growth?
Well, it's a public network, so of course anybody can come and deploy on Hedera. Hedera's got a number of different programming languages that are accessible, which makes it one of the premier protocols to build on. I would say what makes it really unique, and why when an enterprise, a Fortune 500, is choosing a chain, they choose Hedera, is because of the institutional adoption, right? Hedera is run by a network of global Fortune 500 companies. It's a combination of low and predictable fees and the accessibility. And so it's a great place for any builder to come and interact.
So, okay, so one good thing, I think when I was looking at, just some of the scenarios that are playing out here with it within HBAR is the core developers are growing. I was looking at Token Terminal here, just to give an example. This kind of shows right now that Hedera is holding a position of number 3. I'll kind of zoom in on that so everybody can see. So third behind other L1s out there. What do you attribute the growth on developers into the ecosystem, and what are they building?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the key components that we really think about as a protocol as a whole. There's a number of different open source studios that help to accelerate the adoption of various use cases, whether those are stablecoin, the stablecoin studio, whether that's asset tokenization or AI. Those are some of the three big verticals where we've seen a significant amount of adoption and developer interest. As a foundation, our role really is to help to ease the burden of deploying any technology, and that can come through integration assistance. It can come through technology assistance. And so the growth of the core team is vital, and we're really excited about all the work that has occurred so far.
AI is one. You mentioned a couple others with stablecoin, et cetera. Which is there one that is stronger than all of them in terms of potential growth on developers?
So if we look at in sort of the rear view mirror, and one of the studios, which is called the Guardian, the Hedera Guardian, has been heavily used from the sustainability side, and that's providing digitally measurable, verifiable data. And I think that is one of the key areas where if there's a trust problem that's being solved, then Hedera is an excellent tool, but also to financial markets. And so when I think about Hedera, it is a technology that is uniquely positioned and optimized for financial services. And really that comes down to scalability, it comes down to the fee structure, and it comes down to the regulatory compliance. But also have a scenario where there's no front running, right? What we call in the blockchain space, maximum extractable value. That doesn't exist with Hedera. And that's a key point for financial services. If you're talking about a tokenization of a security, the ability to front run, well, that's infrastructure that is a regulatory nightmare. And it's one that one of the talking points for Hedera that really is unique. You can also think about the ability to budget for transactions. If you're talking to a Fortune 500 CFO, they want to know what ultimately the deployment of this technology stack is going to cost them. And so being able to budget appropriately for known transactions is a key.
So you're mentioning a couple of things there. One, of course, is the fee architecture. And I would say to your credit that has been the case. But obviously you guys put out a tweet that started, or I guess is getting ready to start in January 26th. This is amplifying the price. Is this something that has been planned in the roadmap? What can you kind of give me an example of why this is occurring?
So we're still talking about a fraction of a cent, so that's it on a per transaction basis. So it's still quite affordable. It's a low predictable fee, and that people are able to budget for. But ultimately, the decisions of how the network is operated in this capacity comes from the Council of Governance members, and so these are the Fortune 500 companies that are running Hedera. And so changes like this are put forth, and I would encourage your user base to go to hedera.com, and you can see the minutes related to these meetings. The governance of a decentralized network that is run by institutions is a different sort of structure than other public networks, but it's you're able to read the minutes, you're able to look exactly how different organizations approached this very question around the fee structure.
Was this the first time that the fee structure had been changed?
I would have to look back. I've been with the organization over the last year and a half, and certainly during my tenure, there has not been a fee structure change.
There's no been, okay. So I guess, when you look at all these major Fortune 500 companies, to your point is that they are concerned about how these structures are built. Granted, these are very low fees. Yes, I get that. But at some point, is there, the potential for this to get changed again down the road?
Right. So any change to the network in this way would be subject to the governing council making that determination. And they could from time to time make alterations to the protocol as a whole.
Okay. Let's talk about AI, because this is an area that is starting to explode around a lot of blockchains. You guys also put out a tweet here, spending some time at OpenAI. There's Sam Altman right there with, I guess, the Hedera team. When you look at this image, Sam Altman's actually in a room where you guys are talking to him. So is this real? Is this something that you guys were able to present to OpenAI and talk about whether it's a partnership or an involvement? Give me a little bit more context here.
Yeah, so this is a real photo. It's not been digitally altered to my knowledge in any capacity. And yes, we had a member of the Hedera Foundation that was participating in meetings with Sam Altman, and the real focus here is around AI. Hedera is an incredible tool for AI when it comes to addressing trust problems. And the reality is, I think that when we accelerate so much of our lives through deploying AI, there is hallucinations, which we've all seen. There is a lack of transparency around the auditability of how models are producing outputs. And Hedera is an excellent solution for providing an audit trail. We've seen that through projects like Equity Labs that have formed partnerships with our collaborations with Intel as well as Nvidia. And the Nvidia Blackwell chip is embedding within the silicon a means for recording the verifiable compute. And that's a way to address a trust problem that we all encounter with AI around how do we know what is real, what inputs went into models, and how do we validate that? And so it's a match made in heaven there.
For sure. Well, okay, so I have to ask this question. Is OpenAI potentially one of the next council members?
I can't speak directly to new council members. That's a process by which the other governing council members ultimately vote in. But we are very focused on seeing the expansion of the governing councils.
All right. Well, AI is obviously going to be an area that I think most blockchain companies are going to start to integrate into. So hopefully that is on the roadmap for you guys. Also on the roadmap for you guys, of course, is the White House crypto report. Though it was a footnote, I'll just bring it in, at least Hedera was mentioned here, and especially around the DeFi stack. So this is good, I think, for Hedera in general. Any blockchain that was mentioned in this report, I think, is showing that the White House and the administration at least know a little bit more about what's going on in the ecosystem. Explain to me what this might mean for you guys. And is there anything you can reveal to us about Hedera's involvement with the administration?
Well, I've been down in DC multiple times over the last year, and I think that the reality is that the tone of the government in response to this industry has been dramatically different from prior administrations, and that's welcomed. We're seeing the legislation that we were hoping to have, the ground rules that will enable the adoption by institutions. And so this is really what I would say this is all about. It's providing the clarity that institutions need in order to deploy technology. The fact that Hedera was founded by two Americans that were veterans from the armed forces, that does not go unnoticed in DC. And so I think the reference within this report is validation of the importance of Hedera for the American policy.
For sure. I'm going to go back to the council members because there was a new one that I noticed you guys had just put on. Arrow, I don't know who this company is. Can you give me a breakdown of what they do, who they are?
Sure. So Arrow is a Fortune 500, if not Fortune 100 or 200 company. They are based in the United States. They do electronics, and not only providing electronics and semiconductors, but they also have a huge supply chain component to their business. So we're really excited about their focus, both with technology, but on the supply chain side, and how Hedera can fit within their business stack. And so when companies join the governing council, it is both an expectation to operate a node and validate transactions, right? That is part of the physical component of what they do. They provide governance and oversight in terms of the path of how Hedera is operated on an ongoing basis. But then there's also deployments. And so the deployments are an exciting way for these companies like Arrow to be at the table with the developers, the core developers, the table with other enterprises that are looking at how they utilize Hedera for various use cases. And so, Arrow is a market leader, and we're really excited that they have come onto the council.
Speaking of semiconductors, this, of course, is Equity Lab. involvements around Nvidia, and then there's also some others here that potentially are connected, and one of them is Palantir. I was looking at this. Is Hedera involved with these companies right now?
Yeah, so these are the some of the enterprises that Equity Labs has been engaging with. They include ServiceNow, which also has government council, and so the way that the Hedera Foundation works is to really support entrepreneurs, to support businesses, and so we're here to assist Equity Lab in any way we possibly can as they grow their business. One of the exciting applications that was recently announced was their involvement with Accenture and Accenture's ability to continue to grow their business model at Equity Labs by providing a solution to some of the customers of Accenture. And so I think that there's a broad sales cycle that is only just beginning when it comes to AI and the integrity layer for AI.
So you look at the financial ecosystem, there's a lot of chains out there that are now starting to move into ETF, even Treasury companies that are holding the assets, et cetera. Wall Street's getting very active. Obviously, Lloyds Bank was utilizing a testnet for Hedera. Is this something that we can expect a launch on, or is it still in testing phase? What is the model here of going forward?
Oh, so Lloyds Bank's most recent deployment was on mainnet Hedera. There was nothing proof of concept or test about it. So Lloyds and Aberdeen have been have begun to deploy and continue to deploy a collateral mobility application that is made possible through Archax, which is a UK regulated, FCA regulated exchange. And their deployment is a commercial activity. They do, as part of their regular business, a large amount of FX trading.
I'm looking at over-the-counter FX and interest rate derivatives, 15 trillion daily volumes. That was in 22. I wonder what that is now. That would be a significant win for you guys, for sure, if this continues to develop as an opportunity.
We touched around the fee model and things like that, but when it comes to collateral mobility, you need to have legal finality. And so Hedera has sub 3 second legal finality, not probabilistic finality. And that means that you can transfer an asset and another party can say, I have ownership of this, and then rehypothecate it or take other action, rather than waiting for a certain number of transactions to occur that give you probability. We were really excited to see some of the progress as it relates to the U.S. ETFs, both from Grayscale as well as Canary Capital. There are ETPs in Europe and ETPs that will be growing internationally. 21 shares from Valor, and so the wrapping of HBAR and putting them into a vehicle that is more accessible to an investor population through traditional brokers and traditional rails is one of the accessibility themes that I would expect to continue as an industry as a whole. We're seeing that through Treasury companies, we're seeing that through ETPs and ETFs.
For sure. Well, I think it's really kind of a reset right now in the financial markets with all these new products starting to roll out in some of the biggest financial institutions out there. So hopefully this will look good on the resume for Hedera. I'm looking at the roadmap right now, and there's a lot going on here. Is there anything specific on the roadmap right now that you would say, Paul, this is like the one you need to watch? This is something that's special. Really pay attention to this area, because you've got node management, the address book, disaster recovery, the new smart contract equivalents here. Anything specific in this area?
So smart contract equivalents, that certainly is a big one, right? Hedera wasn't born EVM compatible, but it is today. And so programmers can program in Solidity, the language of Ethereum, and can deploy applications that have already been built on Ethereum on Hedera when they need the scalability that Hedera offers. That's what's unique about the Hashgraph, is that it's solved for scalability. It's solved for doing so with low energy usage and high throughput. And so I think that's a big one. We're seeing that having impact from the financial markets. So the ERC 3643 standard that the Hedera Foundation recently joined earlier in the summer. And so the more standardization there is for tokenization of financial products, I think that will be benefit across the overall ecosystem. And then in terms of some of the stablecoin applications, those are really big. And so I'm excited to see Hedera being selected as one of the Reserve Bank of Australia's networks for Project Acacia. And there are, of course, deployments historically from other nation states and central banks. And so when Hedera moves into and increasingly moves into core infrastructure, that is very exciting because that's Hedera under the hood. At some point, we'll be extracting the network itself from the top of mind discussion that it is today. And that's where, things will just work the way you want it to work at high frequency, high speed, low cost. And that's when broad adoption will really occur.
No doubt. And I think this is one of the tipping points for blockchain in general, and the right kind of blockchains that are in the right place at the right time around a lot of these financial institutions. To your point right there, is we're going to start seeing a lot of activity. Speaking of financial institution, Robinhood, of course, did list you guys, and that was a big boom for Hedera in general, just because now people had easier access to it. Why do you think they went with you guys versus, say, someone like a SWI? I was looking at the list here, and a lot of tokens have already been relisted on there, but Hedera, of course, a little bit further down the list in terms of market cap, SWI setting there, but Hedera now number 16. Was there any specific reason you feel like, hey, Robinhood decided to go to this route?
I don't really have insight into the decision-making process that Robinhood
has. Why do you think they did?
Right. So having sat in that seat, and I did so at Binance US, where I was overseeing the listings process, there are a number of different metrics that an exchange will look at. And it goes from the compliance, it goes from the legal, it goes from the technology, and ultimately there is risk that the exchange is taking on and introducing a new protocol and new asset to their customer base. Hedera is unique on so many different levels. That's what stood out to me in terms of its technology, in terms of its history, its use, its transaction volume. And so I would say that the decision to list Hedera was validation in what Hedera has done in terms of approaching both enterprises and retail with real use cases and real adoption.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think the key here also with Robinhood is they have started to migrate heavily into crypto. I think we're going to see even more listings coming in. Obviously, Hedera being one of the top 20 right now, it would seem to be an easy choice for them to kind of go in this direction. And if you guys haven't visited the Hedera website, you should just jump over there. You can learn a little bit more about it and all that good stuff. So it has been great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for stopping in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, so you guys, if you're not part of the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that. That's our own private group that you guys can join for absolutely free. We always leave a link down below. Follow me on X @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on The Paul Barron Show.